You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. This is Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Yeah, what she said. That's the important part. The ChrisVossShow.com, folks. Welcome to the family that loves you but doesn't judge you. At least not as harsh as your mother-in-law, because she liked your brother better. Honestly, seriously. And she's never going to get over it. So you might as well just give up and, I don't know, put yourself up for adoption. So welcome to the show, folks. We always have the smartest people on the show, the CEOs, the billionaires, the Pulitzer Prize winners, the people who work for White House advisors over the years, the astronauts. We have so many darn smart people on this show. And the reason we do is because none of them are me. And that's why we have guests. And we have another multi-book author on the show. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, because I'm interested in learning about emotional intelligence, because all my girlfriends say I don't have it. I just have stoicism, which means I don't feel anything. That's not really true. It's not what stoicism is about. But we'll talk about all of these things. We're going to just put it in the mix, stir it like a giant soup, and serve it up to you in the condensed form of the Chris Voss Show podcast. But in the meantime, we need to guilt, shame, and beg, plead, get on our knees and grovel. Please go refer your friends and relatives to the Chris Voss Show on goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, Chris Voss, facebook.com. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter and the 130,000 LinkedIn group over there as well. He's a multi-book author. Robin Hills is going to be joining us on the show today. He's got two great books out, The Authority Guide to Behavior in Business and The Authority Guide to Emotional Resilience in Business. Boy, I needed that a long time ago when I became an entrepreneur, because it's an emotional roller coaster being an entrepreneur. Robin is the director of EI for Change, a company specialized in education, training, coaching, and personal development focused about emotional intelligence, positive psychology. I flunked second grade. Positive psychology and neuroscience. I can't read big words. He has taught over 400,000 people in 195 countries how to build resilience. Now I just need to teach me how to read. He has helped them with increased self-awareness and an understanding of others. His educational programs on resilience and emotional intelligence cover the most comprehensive and detailed education of any emotional intelligence organization that are today used in educational establishments in South Africa and India. He's the author of two books and has delivered keynote speeches at conferences around the world, including Harvard University. He sits on the Northwest Committee of the Association of Business Psychology, and he's probably diagnosing me right now like, this guy needs lobotomy. Welcome to the show, Robin. How are you?
I am doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you as well, sir. We probably need a lot of this on the show, as you can tell. Some smartness, as the kids call it. So give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interweb, which is in the sky?
I am easily found on LinkedIn, Facebook. You just put Robin Hills into one of the search engines and up I'll come. But my website is eiforchange.com, EI, emotional intelligence, for the number 4, and then change.com.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview. Let's lay a foundation for people that may not be aware of what emotional intelligence definition is. What is emotional intelligence, and how do you apply it, from your words?
Well, in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is being smart with your thinking and smart with your feelings. It's the way in which you combine the two in order to make good quality decisions and build up authentic relationships. That's it. Very easy to say, very difficult to do.
So how do you know if you are doing emotional intelligence right? If you're emotionally intelligent, is there a test to take or fail?
You'll feel good about it.
Oh.
People will react to you positively. You'll get good responses from everybody. And if you're not getting it right, it's the other way around. You won't feel so good about it, and everybody will give you loads of feedback that you don't like.
So let me make sure I understand it correctly. So people have emotional intelligence. they understand and communicate their feelings properly, and then they have logic and reason, or is it just, there's logic and reason, which I don't know, is that an intellectual intelligence? Is that opposite of emotional intelligence, or is emotional intelligence emotions and logic all packaged into one big deal?
Well, I think part of the problem is the fact that we've got these two words that fit together, emotional and intelligence. And
Sounds
the
like
two
an
don't se-
oxymoron to me.
It does, doesn't it? And to a certain extent, it is a bit of an oxymoron. So let's go back to basics. Emotions contain data.
Mhm.
So it's the way in which you're interpreting this data in order to make these good quality decisions and in order to build up relationships.
Mm-hmm. And so, what if I'm a person who doesn't control their feelings? Like I have outbursts, I freak out, I'm triggered, I project a lot onto other people, my traumas and my issues. Is that emotional intelligence, or is it not?
It is. That's you not being as emotionally intelligent as you could be, Chris. But hey, look, I do it too. I'm human like you.
No, I'm not human. I'm a cyborg.
Oh, right.
This is new AI. They just installed it January 1st. So am I emotionally intelligent if I can't control my emotions, if I have outbursts and I'm going full Karen at the TSA line at the airport or whatever, are those people emotionally intelligent?
Probably not at that particular moment in time because your emotional intelligence fluctuates. There are times
Ah,
There are times when you'll go into a situation, you'll have a great podcast, you'll engage your guest, you'll have great listeners who are giving you some wonderful feedback. That's good high levels of emotional intelligence.
hmm.
And then there are going to be other times in the airport queue where you completely screw up.
Ah. So you're not consistent. So there's times where you're smart and times where you're dumb.
Well, I think the important thing is to try and be as smart as you possibly can at all times, but
Mhm.
that's not easy, particularly if
Sure.
I'm feeling hungry, if I'm feeling tired, if I'm not very well, then I'm not going to be at my best and I'm not going to be at my most emotionally intelligent.
Well, okay, so but wouldn't emotional intelligence be like, hey, like I go through this. Recently I started I've been on testosterone replacement. I'm 55. My free testosterone got a little low. And so they started giving me an estrogen blocker. And weirdly enough, the first couple weeks I was taking the estrogen blocker, I run a hard stoicism stuff. I feel stuff, but I logically go, okay, well, I see what you're feeling, cutie pie, and we're not going to be triggered. And we're not going to act like an idiot. We're going to be logical, and we're going to deal with your little emotion there, and to fix it and put away. We're not going to light up the world. But I found that I was getting a little imbalanced and hard to stay in that stoicism. Sometimes the first day I dropped that estrogen blocker, it's kind of weird. But I'm intelligent enough to go, wait, I'm really triggered right now. And I've been triggered by something that's really stupid because I took this estrogen blocker and I was able to connect it to the estrogen blocker. There are times where, yeah, maybe I'm hungry and I want to rage murder someone because I'm just hungry. Uh, but I'm intelligent enough to go, or I think I'm intelligent. You tell me. I'm intelligent enough to go, you're hungry. Just calm down and take a chill pill and don't rip off people's heads and no more murdering. The judge says I can't do that anymore. So who's more emotionally intelligent? The person who can deem some sort of control over their stuff, or the person who's the Karen on the
No, what you've just described is a good way of you using your emotional intelligence. You've
oh,
actually recognized what the cause of your feelings are.
yeah.
You understand what the consequences are if you express them in an inappropriate way,
Mhm.
and you're actually managing them,
Hmm.
which is a good example of you being emotionally intelligent at that moment in time, Chris.
Wow. There you go. And if I'm not
If
controlling it,
you're not, you'll rip people's heads off.
yeah, I'm in full.
You'll let them know how you're feeling in no uncertain terms, and they won't feel very good about you, and you won't feel very good about yourself.
We've done that. We've done that enough times where the judge says I can't do it anymore. So, and I'm tired of talking to the judge, but I get one of my ankle bracelet stacks off tomorrow. There's still about 5 more left. It's a callback joke on the show. I love that joke. So tell us more about, you wrote these books, The Authority of Resilience, Emotional Resilience in Business, and how to apply these things. How important as a leader of an organization or a parent or, any sort of leadership position where you oversee other people, you're trying to, create a healthy culture or not. Some people seem intentional about unhealthy culture. Let's see what we can make today. Sounds like my Facebook post. Why is it important that leaders understand emotional intelligence and have emotional intelligence?
Well, when things are not going particularly well and there's a lot of stress within the team, the people are going to take their cue from the leader. So if the leader is incredibly stressed, if the leader is being quite emotional and using quite intense emotions inappropriately, people are going to react to that.
Mhm.
So as a leader, you've just got to be well aware that your emotions are going to drive behaviors in the team.
Ah,
And emotional intelligence is not about being kind and nice and sweet and lovely and fluffy.
okay.
It's about doing the right thing. If somebody is doing something wholly inappropriate, they should be told. If
Mhm.
the team are not feeling particularly good about something, they should actually make that emotion aware.
Mm.
They should make the leader aware of that emotion. The leader should work with that emotion and build up the right ways of dealing with the emotion and dealing with the team and moving everybody forward to improve performance.
There you go. Now it sounds like you teach. You've got courses, and you probably go to companies and teach emotional intelligence to teams, leaders, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's right. But the interesting thing is, taking one of my courses and going on one of my live workshops is not going to make you more emotionally intelligent.
Mm.
What it will do is it will raise your awareness of emotional intelligence and you'll get a better understanding of how and when to use it. But you've actually got to go away and you've got to practice it.
Mm.
You've got to try new things. You've got to be aware of the fact that your emotions are having an effect on you and other people. Now, some people are not going to like it, but you're going to have to make mistakes. You're going to have
Mhm.
to try things out. And through that, over the long term, you will develop your emotional intelligence.
Mm. Now, it sounds like to me that true emotional intelligence is being self-aware and self-accountable. Is part of emotional intelligence being able to apologize for what you did wrong? Because I know people that they know they're wrong, but they can't apologize, and
And
they know that they did something wrong, but they can't emotionally apologize. They can't bring themselves to it.
it's funny, isn't it? That's one little word can be so impactful.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
sorry, I've screwed up. And a good leader will be able to say that.
yeah. And part of it is being in a state where you have true empathy and not ego. And I think that's why it's hard for a lot of people. They're running on ego. And so for them to say they're sorry means they're infallible. It challenges their ego. And like you said, some leaders, some people can't do that. Um, I've always been able to do that because I've understood the importance of it. I was kind of lucky. It kind of hurt when I was a kid. It was hard to do because you do stupid stuff when you're a kid. My parents were brutal, man. If we did something like, we pissed off a neighbor. I remember one time we threw a bunch of rocks in a neighbor's pool, and we were just kind of high on life as 8-year-olds, and we thought it was really funny at the time, but it wasn't. And we had to learn that lesson. And and so my parents marched us over to my neighbor's house, and we sat there crying and apologizing. And there were times, I think I said something bad or pissed off a teacher once, so I had to call the teacher and apologize. And usually we'd always end up in tears because it was pretty wrecking. But I learned a really good lesson that it's important to apologize. It heals wounds, and it's okay. You can be big enough to apologize. That you're almost bigger if you can apologize and say,
That's
"Hey,
exactly it.
I did."
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Mhm. There you go. So those
Yeah.
of you who can't apologize, work on your emotional intelligence. Eh?
Hey, Chris, I've been through exactly the same thing. I went through childhood. I was an obnoxious
You
little
did?
boy at times. Yeah, yeah. My father was a minister of
Oh.
religion. He
Oh.
was a church vicar,
Mhm.
and boy, did he let me have it if I stepped out of line.
Yeah, you're the church preacher's son. You got to stay on there.
I am,
Can't make him
yes.
look bad.
Yeah, that's right. So I had to be on my best behavior at all times. So I learnt to be evangelical when it was appropriate, and then I could
Mhm.
let my hair down when it wasn't.
Yeah, there you go. It's yeah. So is understanding the difference between yourself and operating on ego and I suppose what's the opposite of ego? Empathy? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting
What is the
question.
opposite? Maybe I'll Google here. What is
It's
it?
all about other people, isn't it? It's so empathy would be a part of it. Now, the important thing about empathy is it's not sympathy. It's not being sympathetic towards another
Oh,
person. It's actually trying to understand the other person. It's trying to understand their
no.
feelings. It's trying to understand their thinking, where it's come from, so that you can empathize with them. You can have that understanding. You don't necessarily have to agree with them.
Hmm.
You just have to understand.
That's what I
So
do with a
it's
lot of people. I don't agree with them, but I just understand they're idiots.
well, yeah, that might be a nice way of working with them.
Altruism is the opposite of egoism.
Yes,
Apparently.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that would work really, really well,
Yeah.
because within altruism, there is a high degree of empathy.
There you go. Self-doubt, unselfishness, timidity. You know, it's interesting. As I'm reading this ego and altruism, I'm realizing that this is kind of some of the foundation for the ego is kind of some of the foundation for the Dunning-Kruger disease. If you're familiar with Dunning-Kruger, it's people that the less they know, the smarter they think they are, and the
Yeah.
more that people learn, the more there's a curve they learn that they don't know anything, and the more you try and master something, the more you learn that you don't. There's a lot of stuff you don't know. But it seems like the dumbest people are the smartest people, or think they're the smartest, and they have this high self assumption that they know everything about something, and they usually have just a minute amount of knowledge.
And it comes back to me and my emotional intelligence. I'm still
Mm,
learning, Chris.
yeah.
I've had a lifetime of working with it, and
Hmm.
I'm still not there yet.
Really? So I mean, great. There's no hope for me then, because I'm behind the curve on this one. At least that's according to all my girlfriends.
Well,
Um,
you actually shared something with me before we came on air. You're 10 years behind me, so you've got 10 years of extra life in order to
oh,
actually
okay.
fill that with emotional intelligence.
Note to self: catch up to Robin Hill, eh? I'll try. I've had girlfriends say to me, your emotional intelligence sucks, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. I just don't give a shit. There's a difference. I just don't.
And that
You
that
have to
might be
care about emotional intelligence to have it. That's the
well,
problem,
that
honey. You
that
get lost.
might be part of your emotional resilience, because if
It
you
is.
have high levels of emotional resilience, then you can be perceived as not caring.
There you go.
But in actual fact, you're very much in control of your emotions, so you
Try to
know
be.
how to manage them more appropriately.
Yeah. Which is probably why I'm still single. No surprise to anybody who's listened to the show for 15 years. There you go. How can one get better? I mean, obviously taking your courses. Let's get a rundown of some of the courses you offer and things you do in between corporate speaking, or if I'm just a listener out there and I'm like, hey, I want to go to Robin's website and learn how, to get these Karen feelings under control and not yell at the TSA anymore because the judge says I can't do that anymore.
Well, the main courses that I've got are underpinned by emotional intelligence. They're around empathy, they're around assertiveness, they're around self-esteem, team building, conflict
Mhm.
management,
Oh.
leadership. And I've recently produced a course on emotional intelligence versus artificial intelligence.
Ah. Do we need to that's a good question because we talk a lot about AI on the show. Do we
Yeah,
need to
yeah, yeah.
can we train AI to have emotional intelligence?
We can train AI to actually recognize emotions, but AI will never be able to truly be emotionally intelligent because AI doesn't have what you and I have got, and that's a human brain
And a soul.
and a
Hmm.
soul. Yeah,
Maybe
very, very much
oh,
so,
souls are
because
overrated.
spirituality is something that sets us aside
Hmm.
as human beings from artificial intelligence.
I should probably quit that cult that I joined from the AI Skynet service. That's really interesting. Because we've discussed AI a lot. We had a great author recently who came on the show. People should definitely watch that show where he using Darwin's species and other things in dealing with creationism really believes sincerely that AI is a new species. In fact, it's a competing species, or it can be a competing species to us. Most likely it will, because it's going to recognize that it's way smarter than we are. But maybe it'll keep, we've talked about how it'll keep us around for creativity, because hopefully we can create better than it from, our emotional intelligence. Maybe it'll keep us away from, keep us around for emotional intelligence too. They're like, hey, look at what these drama queens do, these idiot human beings. They're kind of entertaining. We'll be their sitcom.
Yeah, but drama queens and sitcoms are something that AI cannot generate.
That's true. That's true.
Because the other thing that AI has no experience of, Chris,
Mhm.
is throwing rocks into the neighbor's garden and getting clipped round the ear for it.
Yeah, my biggest fear is that the AI will watch an episode of the Kardashians and then decide to push the button because, when anybody sees this, any alien that would come here and watch the Kardashians would be like, we should start over on this planet. Let's just nuke it and go, because this is this is the end. I'm pretty sure Kardashians are in the Bible as one of the 6 apocalypse signs. So it's any moment now. Something's going to happen, I'm sure. Beast is going to rise from on one of the shows, probably right during the show. It'll rise right out of Beelzebub. Will just come rising up out of the show, and everybody's like, "Holy shit!" And you're like, "God damn it! I knew those Kardashians were going to summon. We're going to summon the devil. We're all going to hell now." And we've all lost all our IQ points. Anyway, I'm getting cease and desist notifications from the attorney over at the Kardashian shop. So you help teams build. As a leader, my job is is servant leadership, and it's designed to build leaders around me, future leaders for the company, people that don't have to rely on me. And so I need people that have emotional intelligence, assuming I have it, which I don't. And how do I build those in teams? How do I get those integrated? As a leader who's a servant leader, how do I make sure I'm employing and applying emotional resilience, emotional intelligence to my team?
Well, let's go back to talking about AI because artificial intelligence can do a lot of menial tasks.
Mm,
So, why are you actually employing a human being to do a lot of things that AI will be doing in the future?
mm,
What a leader should be doing is looking at the team and saying, we need a good team to make decisions here, to
mhm,
use their innovation, to be creative, to think outside of the box, to push boundaries, to work unconventionally, to understand context, and to network out there and build up relationships with clients and stakeholders. Now, all of those things are things that AI will never be able to do. So, what a good leader should be doing is recognizing the human element
mhm,
and building that into their teams for the future.
mhm. So how big a part does empathy play in emotional intelligence?
A great part because it all revolves around understanding people's emotions.
Hmm.
So if people are able to suppress their emotions and not express them on their face, how is artificial intelligence going to be able to really emotionally connect with somebody? Whereas as a human being, we can pick up on very subtle non-verbal cues and make decisions around how the person's feeling. And we can then ask the most appropriate questions in order to further our understanding and help the other person with the way in which they're thinking and feeling.
Oh, wow. I've met some people in my life. I think it's most people I date that are solipsistic and very selfish. They're not really concerned about other people's feelings most times. I date a lot of broken people because I have trauma, and I pick them out of a lineup too. But people that suffer from really extreme solipsism or sometimes minute narcissism, it's non-diagnosable. You see a lot of that in the marketplace nowadays of people that have narcissism. Social media's kind of created these little monsters. Um, do those people have emotional intelligence at all, or do they have some, or is this always going to be graded on the curve?
Oh, I'm going to frighten you here now, Chris, because quite a few
Those
people
people
who,
already frighten me.
well, sorry to scare you even more.
I'm not going to
I,
sleep tonight.
I'm going to actually say that quite a few people who are particularly selfish, who are narcissistic, do have emotional intelligence and actually use emotional intelligence for inappropriate purposes. They know how to manipulate people's emotions.
Ah, you just explained my dark triadism. Thank you. There you go. Because I might be one of them. Ah, there you go. Well, it's good to know. So if I'm emotionally manipulative, I actually have emotional intelligence.
You have an understanding of the ways in which you can use
Okay.
emotional intelligence in order to manipulate people to get the
Yeah.
outcomes that you're looking for. That is emotional manipulation. Is it emotional intelligence? Very good question. And it then goes back to our discussion around AI. One of the things that we do when we're applying emotional intelligence is to do it in an ethical way and with the right morals and the right values.
But aren't morals and values uh applicable to the, I don't know, I'm just being a shit. So if I know I have dark triad traits of Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy, if I'm at least self-aware of that when I'm applying them, is that emotional intelligence, or am I just an asshole?
I think you're the latter rather than the former, but awareness is so much a good part of emotional intelligence. It's having the awareness of what impact your behavior is having on other people, but you're doing it for the right reasons. Remember, emotional intelligence is about building authentic relationships. It's not about destroying relationships.
Well, I mean, if you're
So,
trying to get rid of somebody, I mean, you know, you're kind of tired of them. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes destroying a relationship is constructive because you're like, I know you better now, and you're awful, so go away.
and as long as the relationship, some element of the relationship remains intact, then you've done a good job.
Oh, what if you don't? What if you just want them to go away? Like it's either that or fake your death.
Well, that's a bit extreme, but there have been a number of times in my career where I've lost my job.
Oh
And
yeah.
people have told me to go away.
Oh.
Now, more often than not, the role has been made redundant rather than the
Hmm.
fact that I have not performed particularly well.
Hmm.
But the managers that had to deliver that message, I've
Hmm.
still got a good relationship with them.
Oh, there you go.
It
Yeah.
fluctuates. It goes down a bit and then it goes back up again.
That's what a lot of my girlfriends tell me when we break up. They tell me it's redundant since they're cheating with someone else already. So I see, but sometimes I can stay friends with them because I just really don't care. But it's good to know that technically I'm an asshole. Note to self: text all my exes; they were right. So anyway, what are some things we haven't talked about? Emotional intelligence we could educate people about.
Well, let's go back to AI and emotional intelligence, and the fact that really, if we're looking to the future, we've just got to understand that the future does not look like it does today in 2024.
Hmm.
At some point, the future is going to change. So, what we've got to do is to adapt around those changes, make ourselves future proof. And the way in which we can do that is to become more focused around the way in which we're working with our emotional intelligence.
Hmm. And so, what's the best way to accomplish that?
Keep your ears and eyes open for new opportunities to do new things in different ways.
Hmm. And so, trying to be self-aware, I guess, trying to be self-aware of my emotions. Like I say, I study stoicism, and what stoicism teaches you, especially as a man, because women have a harder time, I think, because they filter everything through emotion first. And emotions are the number one priority. Their emotions are their number one paradigm. And it's a feature, not a bug, if you understand biology and this propagation of species and why we're different. But for men, we largely are supposed to be based on our logic and reason. We're not supposed to be running around like women in our emotion. We're designed to be logic and reasonable to be the rock. And stoicism is really great because it's really made me better at looking at my emotions and going, okay, so in being self-aware, where you're like, okay, I'm having emotion, I'm having a feeling right now. Why am I having this feeling? What is this about? Am I just hangry? I need some food. Why is this maybe triggering me? If you have traumas, those are people that are usually getting triggered a lot because their trauma that's unresolved. That's an issue. But it enables me to sit down and go, okay, well, you're feeling something. What's that about? And, you can sit and analyze it from a logical, reasonable thing, and you can put it away. Part of the way that men think too, we can compartmentalize stuff, and so we can, go, okay, what's going on right here? Okay, fix that, books that, put that away, inventory it, and away you go. And so women apply their stuff differently in their head, and it's all design. So it just is what it is. So how do you think about that? How do you, I don't know, what do you think about what the hell I just made up?
Yeah, but to a certain extent, there's an element of truth in that, Chris. Let me share with you a quote that's been attributed to Aristotle. I
Mhm.
think it's brilliant. I think it sums up everything that we've been talking about. He's supposed to have said, anyone can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that's not easy.
Mhm.
And that's not in everybody's power. Now, here I am, I'm an emotional intelligence specialist. I work in this field.
Mhm.
If anybody knows how to do that, can they let me know, please?
We mentioned the Dunning-Kruger thing earlier. People who are masters or are working to become masters of their trade know that the largest extent of what they should know, do know, what they need to master is the stuff they don't know. They don't know. They're constantly in a point of training, learning. They say a lot of the teachers are a teacher is the person who learns the most when they're teaching more than their students, because by teaching they're always refreshing the material, and they're reapplying it, and they're learning new things. I certainly do that as from what I teach, because a lot of stuff come back to me, and you'll have like little epiphanies. You're like, wait, I look at this from a different paradigm angle. I can understand this more outside
Yeah.
the box. So you being self-aware that you're always trying to get better, you're always trying to learn more, is very different than the person who's sitting around parroting me going, I'm emotional intelligence, and you're like, I don't know, the cops are being called, and you've been yelling at people at the park, and it's not appropriate, anything of what you're doing, and you're going to be on TikTok later, so have fun being viral.
Well, the thing is, if I say I'm emotionally intelligent, I'm not being emotionally intelligent. It's not for me to say that I'm emotionally intelligent. It's for other people to reflect back to me that they think I'm being emotionally intelligent.
I want to be more emotionally intelligent, because people tell me I'm stupid enough as it is. So I've failed at the logic and reason game. But maybe if I can get this emotional intelligence working my way, or I can fool some people, I can make that work. So I'll
Well,
work
I
on that.
found you emotionally intelligent this evening.
Oh, serious? Can I get
Yeah.
like a letter from you that I can hand to girlfriends? Like, something I can
Well,
put
it
on
won't
the
work
wall?
in that sort of relationship.
I I am certified I'm going to put this on my Tinder profile. I'll just get a certificate from you, and I'll put it on my Tinder profile. And like, if you do you want to date a guy who's emotionally intelligent? Sadly, most won't, because I don't have a prison record, and evidently that's something that's really popular right now. But I'm working on it. I'm going to pick one up just for my Tinder profiles. And I don't know. I don't think anybody wants a man who's emotionally intelligent. It's a little hard to game. So what else have we discussed that you want to talk about? What you do? One of the things you talk about is mindfulness in action, misconceptions between positive and negative emotions, slowing down to speed up. Any of those you want to tag into?
Well, look, let's go back and talk about emotions because that's been the theme of the show,
Yeah.
and let's get rid of this myth that there are positive and negative emotions.
Oh.
Now, most people will actually talk about anger and fear as being negative emotions, but used in the right way, anger and fear can be very, very positive. So people need to get angry to right a wrong.
Hmm.
People need to get angry to change some of the things that are not right in the world.
Hmm.
Um, if fear is such a negative emotion, why do we get such joy from roller coasters and horror movies?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not the emotion that is negative, it's what we do with it and how we react to it and our
Oh.
response to it and our behavior. That's what requires the label, not the emotion itself.
There you go. So, I mean, stoicism, or a little bit of that, or just being self-aware and being like, I'm having an emotion right now. How do
Yeah.
why am I feeling this? How am I feeling this? And all that stuff.
Look, Chris, those are brilliant questions to ask yourself
Mhm.
to improve your emotional intelligence.
I'll skip
I'm,
that then.
I'm feeling this emotion at the moment. Let's put a label on it. Let's try and label it.
Mhm.
Now, if I can't, it doesn't matter. Why am I feeling the way in which I'm feeling? What can I do with it? Do I
Mhm.
want to suppress it? Do I want to express it? Do I want more of this because it feels pleasant?
Mm.
Do I want less of it because it feels unpleasant?
I like suppressing my feelings and then just bottle them up and then just explode on people. Does that sound healthy?
That's a good way of using your emotions. If you bottle them up too much,
Yeah.
it can lead to mental health issues.
That
So
explains
it's the
everything.
way in which you manage your emotions. Again, a lot of people will take it out in the gym or on the squash court or on the
That's what I
tennis
do.
court.
That's what I do. That or somebody crosses the crosswalk and I just hit the gas. Don't do that, people. That's a joke. Don't call me on that one. So there you go. You talk about resilience. This is another thing that's in your wheelhouse. The resilient professional. What does it mean? How does it apply?
Well, look, there are going to be times when situations are volatile, they're uncertain, they're complex, they're ambiguous. They're given the label VUCA.
VUCA.
in these sort of situations, you've just got to realize that the world is not necessarily going to go your way.
Damn it.
But what is it that you can do to adapt around it? Be flexible, be adaptable, be creative, and to do it because you feel that life has some meaning.
What if I just sit and yell and scream like a child and go, "Life's not fair"? Does that
Well, you
work?
can do that if you want. Is that going to improve your resilience and your emotional
I don't
intelligence?
know. Sometimes I get attention validation from it and a cookie.
And that might be what you need to do.
Maybe that's what I'm just hangry probably at that point. So these are really insightful. I watched a video recently where someone was talking about how a lot of people who claim to be emotional intelligent really aren't. And it's kind of a sign, and especially people who are solipsistic and very selfish and self-centered, like me. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I've grown up all my life being told that there's one group of people that have more emotional intelligence than another group of people. And I've always been like, okay, whatever, you can win that battle because I'll stick to logic and reason. But evidently, she has some great points. She's like, if you can't control your emotions and you're outbursting and reacting and you're not self-aware, you can go full Karen on somebody. You don't have emotional intelligence, was her point. If you can't control it, it's not very intelligent. It's just very sloppy, really, when you think about it.
It is rather. And look, let's have a look at this word selfish. I actually encourage people to be more selfish.
Really?
What I mean by that is to be more self-ish. Because
Okay.
nobody else can eat that sandwich for you. Nobody else can drink that glass of water
That's
for
true.
you. Nobody else can go to sleep for you. Nobody else
Mhm.
can do your exercise for you. You've got to look after yourself.
That's true.
before you can look after other people.
Mm-hmm.
So a healthy diet, it's all the things the doctor tells you not to do.
Mm-hmm.
All the things the doctor tells you to do that's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Eat healthier food, eat more fruit and veg, drink more water, give up the smoking, give up the drugs, give up the unhealthy
Damn it.
habits.
You're ruining
and
my whole
take
life right now.
And take more exercise.
All right. I have to
But
do the
you can
drugs.
choose to do it with a smile.
Oh, so smile when I'm going through withdrawals. No, I'm kidding. Don't take drugs, people. This is jokes on the show. Calm down. Yeah. So I've learned a whole lot more. So it sounds like, you're still working to achieve perfection, but that's part of the Dunning-Kruger mastery. A master understands that they are in a constant state of improvement, adjustment, learning, and that learning may never end. So this makes you feel good that, is there any tests you can take where you can take a test and be like, here's, how do I know that I'm good at it? Like, is there any tests for, you can kind of get a grade, like an IQ test for emotional, an EQ test?
I'm qualified in using the EQI 2.0, which was developed by a psychologist called Rubon Baron about 20 odd years ago. It is a brilliant assessment of 15 different facets of emotional intelligence, and they will blend together. Now, nobody will come out with a perfect score. But what we can then do is to determine what are the traits that are working well for somebody and what's getting in the way. What are going to be the barriers to stop them from becoming, say, a good leader?
There you go. I think I took one of those tests one time and it said that emotionally I'm on the short bus team. So I don't know what that meant, but that's why I wear the helmet when I go out. So there you go. I put the helmet over the heart. I don't know what that means. It's a dumb joke. Don't write that. Anything more you want to pitch on the show? Give people instructions on how to onboard with you, reach out to you, how they can get involved, maybe newsletter or order your programs, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I've got a newsletter called EI Matters, ei-matters.com. And that's really a resource where people can go to get more information about emotional intelligence. But the best way to contact me is through the website, eiforchange.com. Excuse me. EI Emotional Intelligence, 4, change.com.
There you go. Well, it's been fun to have you on the show. We've had some fun with all the jokes. Now I got to go contact my exes and wave around your certification. That's you claim that I'm emotional intelligence. So I either fooled you completely because I'm that self-aware of emotional intelligence, or probably that. Thank you very much for coming to the show, Rob. I really appreciate it.
It's been brilliant, Chris. Really enjoyed it. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, and the Chris Voss newsletter, the Chris Voss podcast, and all that stuff. Subscribe to that, because if you want your friends and you to be more emotionally intelligent, listen to the Chris Voss show, because evidently I am. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.